It's time for my Scotland video. And, I could have avoided that Highlander joke, but I didn't. That's why we're here. Anyway, after taking an adventurous train trip from Bath to London, where there were delays between Paddington and King's Cross, and we missed our train, and then we had to run on a train platform. Anyway, it was shockingly easy to traverse trains in the UK versus in the US, where they'd be like, nah. Anyway, Frank got adorable roses and stuff, and fruit, and macarons for our hotel room in Edinburgh. Look at those rose petals. First up, the castle that is just in the middle of this city. It was pretty windy. It was rainy off and on, but this city confused me dimensionally a lot. The verticality of things, I was constantly directionally confused here. But it was interesting. This and other places in Scotland, the labels and things spend a lot of time talking about the quote government and not necessarily just the British, even though they definitely mean the British. So there's a lot to unpack with a lot of the things happening here. Oh, there's a Frank. Anyway, it was kind of interesting to traverse this castle, I'll say, because there is a lot of incline stuff. Theoretically, it's wheelchair accessible, but also it's a pretty beefy uphill at some points, and there are a bunch of places that are stairs only, as an FYI. Shockingly, the Great Hall was open. I have a story about how I tried to go to a different castle once. The Great Hall is closed because Doctor Who was filming there, but that's different. This place was pretty cool, and Frank was excited about all the weapons that were on display. I was obsessed with all the woodworking details because they were pretty cool. That is the dynamic of our relationship. The views from here were amazing, just seeing across the city. Again, I was very confused about the dimensions of the city. But outside of here, you can just walk right out here to the Royal Mile, and there's a ton of touristy places. But there's this company, this org that just has owls. They just have owls that they just let you hold for £5. Owls. Live, real owls. And guess what? I got to hold Haggis. That is me with my new son, Haggis. Look at him. Look at my sweet son. Look, he was so grumpy because they have him on a springtime diet so that he can fly good or whatever. I don't know, man. But this is my new son. Look at him. He was so grumpy. I just love him so much. Anyway, these are the adventures of Bianca and her owl Haggis. Moving on, I guess. We explored the city a bunch. We walked back and forth in this area a ton. We went to the newsroom. As former newsies, this was funny to us. We did some whiskey tasting. And there was vegetarian, vegan neeps and tatties. And veggie, a ton of vegetarian, vegan options here. This, just a moment of silence for how good this haggis is. Because it's a vegan haggis, but it had neeps and tatties in it. I don't know. It was really good. But we went to a fancy dinner at the Witchery at one point. And we actually went to the secret garden at the Witchery. And this was the fanciest meal I've ever had in my life. Frank and I did not know what to do or how to act because this was very, very fancy. We shared everything. And the meal was finished with this tart tatin, this apple beautifulness. And I can't explain how rich that food was. But it was real rich and real good. And yeah. I would say you definitely, if you like the aesthetics of this place, definitely give it a visit. It's not going to be a cheap meal, but it'll be a fun meal and a memorable one. I will also say that the secret garden is not really accessible. It's down a little narrow staircase, but the main witchery place is, I think there's maybe one or two little stairs if you can manage that down, I think, from the road. Anyway, this place is very thematic. There are rooms here, very goth-themed witchy rooms as well that are always booked way in advance and very expensive. But these are just options if this is your aesthetic because it's a really cool, just interesting place. We took a day trip to Inverness, and I felt like the Highlands and Sauron's Tower out there was a perfect backdrop as we listened to Worlds Beyond Number, the children's campaign, for our train trip. It was just stunning countryside, I have to say, despite, like, the terribleness of the glare on this, like, footage that I have, if you make the train trip, it's a commitment, because you're just going up to Inverness, and there's not going to be a ton to do there. But I will say, it's a pretty cool once-in-a-lifetime thing if you're never coming back, which probably is my case. They have their Victorian market, which they've vitalized, so there's some cool things there. And then we got the best taxi driver in the world, who was like, there's only like 5 things here. Let me drive you to the Clava Cairns. And this is a Neolithic site. If you haven't heard much about it, these little lines, these little like pathways, theoretically they line up with the sun directly on summer solstice every year, and there's a couple of them that do that, these cairns, these big stone cairns. And of course there's standing stones, which, you know, TBD on why they're here, what their purpose is. I did not touch the stones. I told Frank not to touch the stones, because in this family we don't fuck with other people's magic. We leave it alone, we let it be, we respect it, we appreciate it, but we don't fuck with it. It was just a really interesting day because it had just stopped sprinkling when we walked around here. And our taxi driver had also been nice enough to drive us to other places. Here's a Highland cow. This is the best thing, except for the owl, that might have happened to me. Look at this beautiful fluffy baby. Oh my god. Anyway, there was a bookstore in Inverness that just had this like open fireplace in the middle of it. But it was packed with stuff. If you don't have vertigo issues, this would be a great place to wander, because there's like multiple like floors and subfloors. If you have vertigo, you probably don't want to go there. Also, it's all stairs. Not an option. We did wander around the rest of Inverness waiting for our nighttime train. The castle was closed, so there wasn't much to do. I'm gonna be real. It was really cool to be up that far north. There were unicorns. There was also the Culloden battlefield and Culloden house. I will say, like, for all these things, like, you probably want a taxi out there. Those aren't really walkable things to do. Including the cairns. Like, at least the cairns, like, you don't have to go upstairs, but it is gravelly and uneven. So, this is just an FYI for folks that are thinking of going out there. Like, I do think that the Culloden, visitor center, was accessible, like, once you get there. But just an FYI that, like, those are not really close to the train station. Those are pretty far out. And they're not really close to each other, those things out there. And the city, of course, is going to be, you know, up and down some stairs and stones and all these other things. So, FYI for folks thinking about visiting that need even terrain. There was a place that had Harris Tweed remnants and off the bolt, and I refrained from buying it. We bought our Harris Tweed as fully made things. And then we took the train back and got so many good chocolates and listened to podcasts. And we were back in Edinburgh, and Frank got to hold an owl from the same people. I will link to their Facebook, but basically every day from like 12 to 4, they are right outside the castle at the Royal Mile. And for £5, you too can hold a beautiful baby owl. Look at these sweet babies. Oh my god. Oh. Anyway, we made the pilgrimage to Mary's Milk Bar, which is, you can see, down from the castle. This is a kind of legendary place where, like, you have to go on Instagram to see what their flavors are going to be for the day. It was almost Easter, so there was so much goodness. We tried the chocolate ice cream and that hot cross bun ice cream, and oh my god, it was delicious. We found swords, because we're knights, and that's what we do. Anyway, here's another look at just how, is this the 5th floor of a place? I don't know. Anyway, north and south time. Calton Hill. We made our little pilgrimage up this place. Again, it's going to be stairs. There were, like, eventually past some stairs, there were just, like, slopey things. I think there is one entrance that is a slope versus just stairs to get into this place. It's not great, though. Like, everything's going to be pretty steep and, like, not really close to the street once you start getting up here. That's just an FYI. But it was pretty stunning just to, like, look across the city from here. And you can see Arthur's Seat way out there in the distance. And then we made it to, I'm not going to say it right, Holyroodhouse? This place It was big. There's not footage inside because it was really crowded, and I missed the sign that said no footage of the inside, the interiors. And I was in the first room, and the dude was like, no photos. And I was like, thank you for telling me, because I had missed the signage. Anyway, there's this, like, abbey that this is attached to. And I got to live out some Catherine Morland, I'm in an abbey ruin thing. There's some hilarity about people trying to fix this and actually making it worse, as is history. In terms of the actual house itself, I didn't really see lifts available. So proceed with caution. Also, I swear I almost had a minor panic attack in the tiniest staircase in the world that went up to Mary Queen of Scots' bedchamber. That's just me. I found the most important thing of my life in this garden, which was this D20, and you cannot convince me it's a sundial. Anyway, outside of the palace area was this recreation of, like, ye olde physic garden, and it gives you, like, all the info on it. I thought that was really cool. It's supposed to be, like, kind of like a community education space as well. I mean, I can't understand having room for gardens because I live in a city in America. Anyway, if you check out a bunch of the closes in Edinburgh, these are basically these little places between buildings, and Dunbar's Close is the one that we're walking in right now, and it has a recreation of, like, oldie-timey gardens. So if you just want to grab some lunch, there are a couple of benches in here. You can come hang out, and we were really lucky because we were right before Easter, so even though it was kind of off and on raining, and you can see here Frank's beautiful Harris tweed in action, it was pretty. It was spring. This is also beside the Museum of Edinburgh, and that was, like, Jamie's print shop in Outlander. Anyway, the Museum of Scotland has William Morris stuff, so that this is extremely my shit. They also had other things, like they had a special exhibition of Doctor Who stuff that we paid extra to go to. General admission you didn't have to pay for. There were elevators across this place. There were a bunch of elevators. I will say that this place, though, was very packed. We did go on a weekend just because of, when we were staying at this place. So it was very crowded, lots of kids, because it has, like, all the natural history stuff. I was here, obviously, for the clothing. I mean, I could go on about all the things. There was a wall of lace that I think I freaked somebody out by how excited I was to just talk about all the different laces that were present. They purposely don't light, like, super brightly a bunch of these things because these are delicate. So it's a little hard to see, especially through video and photo. But it was nice to see a lot of the undergarments on display to get the kind of inside look at things and how people were wearing things. This beautiful pink corset. It was an okay display. I wish there'd been more about material culture and textiles, but here we are. So that wraps up Edinburgh in Scotland.